On this week's episode of Oddmo's Community Networks, we join Mike from Oddmo's Pizza as we spotlight Chris from Black Label Marketing. We'll dive into how building a strong network has fueled his business growth, especially in social media management and marketing. Tune in for great insights.
Welcome to the Oddmo's Community Network. Today we have Chris from Black Label Marketing.
Hey.
And he's going to tell us what he does in the community. Tell everybody kind of like what Black Label Marketing is and what's your primary focus, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. Well, Black Label Marketing is a full-scale digital marketing agency. So we do everything from websites to scheduling your social media content to strategy to search engine optimization to doing like ranking on ads for maps and all that stuff. So really anything digital marketing we do. That includes like CRM systems, so customer reputation management systems, and AI automations, things that can take time off of a business owner or somebody in their business that does their marketing can just take time off of them so they have time to do whatever else they need to do because time is precious.
Yeah.
And so I started my agency back in 2022, but my start in marketing really happened when I was 15. So I was playing basketball at the Hoop, what used to be the Hoop here in Salem. And the people that owned it were Price and Julie Johnson. And they had just bought the building, and they had actually had a building called the Hoop where they were from in a different state. And so they were bringing some of that stuff here, and I actually got to make some of their flyers, and I was like running around and putting them on cars in parking lots. And I kind of fell in love with this idea of, man, this is really cool that you could put your logo on something and then try to figure out how to get it in front of people and then how to turn those people into customers. So I've always kind of loved that thing in the back of my mind that I'm like, oh yeah, okay, this is kind of cool. This is fun, right? I didn't want to be stuck in a job that I was like, I absolutely hate. You know, I was like, because that sucks to grow up and be like, yeah, I get to work this 9-to-5 job that I don't want to go to every day. And so I spent a bunch of different years trying different things, did a bunch of youth work, worked in youth corrections for a while. But this marketing thing is something I always came back to. And in 2022, I decided that if there was ever a time to start my business, I was in a good position financially. We had just bought our house, my wife and I was like, all right, I'm gonna dive deep and give it my best shot. And my whole goal was for everyone to just know me as a person, and like I'm not the guy that's going to try to sell you on something. I don't hard sell. I've never been a salesman, so you don't have to worry about the sleaziness with me. Like, dude, I'm a nerd. I love coffee. I play Magic the Gathering. I love tattoos.
You should have brought your cards. I got my deck right here.
Dude,
we play D&D out there on the table.
That's what I'm talking about. So literally, I play Magic with Charles sometimes.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. And so we have a group in our networking group that we all go and play. And so, I'm just a guy that loves people and wants to see people succeed.
You know, it's a special thing where you can actually take your entrepreneurial spirit and your artistic mind, and you said ADHD mind,
dude, yes.
Which I'm right there with you. But I mean, that's why I got into the pizza industry, is because I get to touch everything.
Yep.
And 26 years in the industry, it's like I get to do promotions and marketing, and I get to work with companies and community groups, and I mean, it's like I get to do all kinds of stuff. I mean, I have to make pizza every once in a while, but. Still,
at least it's good pizza, though.
Still, I mean, like, I should take you to my main office right here. We have a desk for other people to sit at. I can't sit down, so I have my entire marketing plans and everything. It's on whiteboards.
Yep.
So I just sit there and I scribble on whiteboards, and I can move projects over and things like that to do that. But a lot of it is like what we're doing today. Is I really enjoy, seeing what other people do, how they do it, why they do it, And so doing this is great. And for you kind of start with that blank board of like, okay, so where are you at? And you probably, when you interview people or talk to people about that, you get to kind of invite their whole lives, and you kind of scramble it around your imagination brain and go, have you ever looked at it this way? Have you ever looked at it that way? So I love that, the perspective that they bring. And so, I mean, that's your world.
Yep. Yeah, it's always a different perspective. I think as a business owner, it's so easy to get focused on the biggest thing in your business is leads, right? Leads and people buying your product or buying whatever you sell. And so you're like, well, I need these leads and I need to sell them. And coming from the other side, I'm like, yeah, that's super important. But what about the leads that you've had for like the last 7 years that you've never touched since they bought something from you? And they're like, well, what are we supposed to do with them? And I'm like, problem number one. Okay, so let me just frame this for you, and it's cool to kind of be the guy that brings some life back into them, being like, oh, I didn't know that you could do email marketing, or that like I could have automation set up for that, so it's automatically done for me every month or every couple weeks, and it's like.
And with that, what's really crazy from the business side of it, I'm a digital kindergartner. I'm old.
Yeah.
And by default, with my age, I've aged out on this whole new, new influx of, business and things. But it all sounds good, and I think that's the difficult part about this is for me and from my side, it all sounds good.
Yep.
But you need to find the right partner. You need to find somebody, and like you say, you don't come into it like because there's other businesses out there that say, hey, let me sell you this program, this project, whatever like that. And I think to find somebody that wants to come in and kind of absorb your business and what you do and do that, and then maximize what you can do with their business, I think that's a great approach.
Yeah, I took the approach of, I read this book. Don't ask me what it was because I don't remember. The book wasn't great, but there was one quote in the book that like just wrecked me. And it said, people don't buy the products or services you sell, they buy you. And for me, I was like, oh, well, why do we focus so hard on sales then? And so hard on like, well, I need to sell this thing. I go in there and I get to talk about the person, and I get to know, what's your story? Where'd you come from? How'd you start this? Why'd you start this? Like, why haven't you given up yet? Asking those questions, and they get to see my personality, and I share a little bit about my story and, why I started and how I started and what led me to start Black Label. And so I think for me, that's been the game changer is I try to just break down the wall, because automatically somebody's like, oh, hey, I'd love to have a meeting with you. And you're like, oh no. What are you going to sell me today, right? Like that literally, like you can go to a chamber event and most of the time people want to sit down with you. It's like, oh, hey, I wanted to tell you about my offer. And you're like, I just wanted to be friends, man. Like, I know. That sucks.
I want to introduce you to my blue black deck.
Yeah, literally.
I want you to see my control, with those things on that introduction and things like that, I got into sales early. It was kind of a part-time job, and I realized that is not my thing, and yet I'm a salesman. I mean, my business is requiring on me getting new customers and things like that, but I take the same approach of like, I just want people to know what I'm doing. And so even like when we're upselling products in the store, you're like, hey, have you wanted to try our cheesy garlic bread, Well, I look at it more like the educational side of it. I want to let them know I have it, and so if they didn't know I have it, and so I have to kind of twist my mind sometimes. Because I really think that you want to find people that like you or like your product, and you want to take care of them.
Yep.
And you talk about how you got to get them in the front door first, of course. And so we do a lot of promotions where we just feed people.
Yeah.
And do that kind of stuff. And the thing that we always do is with the idea of you saying like you want to get in and see their business, go, hey, you already have a lot of clients, customer base, all that stuff. Let's find out how we can blossom and grow that. I do the same thing with if I have a once a month customer, can I make them a once every 2 week customer? Because then I just doubled my business. And I'm taking care of somebody that already likes us. So how I can better take care of them? I mean, really, it really comes down to that, because I had a gentleman from Pigaro's Pizza is what I call it, because I was transferred, like Mappa Perfis, things like that. And I had them come in, and they just basically were saying, I like their pizza better than yours. And in my head, I'm like, why are you here? But I thought to myself, I'm like, it doesn't upset me.
Yeah.
I'm like, I enjoy. There's so many customers out there. I mean, that's my side of the world. We're getting into the pizza world now,
but it's true. It's with some people you are their cup of tea, and others you aren't, and that's okay. Like, it's all good. That's why there's multiple choices out there.
Well, in your industry right now, it's madness.
It is.
I mean, it's a fast changing industry. It is. You hear a lot of the same like marketing out there. You say like this, like this, like this, like this. That whole thing is pretty much the same thing. How do you get past that? Do you just you just have to like get somebody comfortable with you first?
Yeah. What I'll say is relationship and social proof. is huge. And so I honestly, as a marketing guy, I don't run ads for myself. All of my business is word of mouth. It's from people that I've done business with, and me going to them being like, hey, we've done really great results for you. Do you know anyone else that could use this service?
Yeah.
And so I've been really, really blessed with clients that love what we do and the results that we're producing. But for a new client that comes in, or that I'm prospecting to meet with, it usually just generally comes down to relationship and being able to like prove I actually know. And for me, a little bit of backstory, like outside of my general like marketing experience when I was working at the Hoop and doing that, like I worked for a company, and I was in charge of their marketing, and I found that the marketing agency they were using, they were spending like $9,000 a month with this marketing agency. And I got into the back end of the system and I saw that they actually weren't doing anything. The results that they said they were getting, they weren't. It wasn't like our money was going to places that wasn't what it was supposed to be. And so I was like, well, crap. Now I need to figure out how to do this. So I taught myself. YouTube University, man. I went on there and I was like, okay, like let's find, people and like what are they doing? And I started listening to a bunch of people and figuring it out for myself. And I then was like, all right, I'm going to stop running Google ads for this company that I'm doing. And I'm like, we're going to go straight Facebook ads. And I took $150 on a Facebook ad, and I turned that into $25,000 in 3 weeks. And I was like, okay, I think I can do this. Like,
Yeah.
if we were getting, in a better lack of better words, if we were getting screwed out of this amount of money, like how many other people are experiencing the same thing? And so my approach is, what if I could be the honest and transparent, like you get me, like you're dealing with me. I don't have a team of people in Indonesia or in, the Philippines that are doing this work like I'm doing it. Like, and if I bring on somebody, they're getting trained by me. How do I, if I could bring that, how much more comfortable would that make somebody? That we could produce these results.
Well, because when we first did it, when all this was coming out, I remember when we had the Dex phone book, they came out and built a profile for us and all that, and it's so hard for somebody like me because it's like you're taking that theoretical approach. Somebody's telling you, hey, this is the package, this is what you're going to hit, blah blah blah, and it's just a very non-intrusive media back then. And now it's at least it's easier to track and things like that. But still, even with all that tracking stuff behind the scenes, someone like me is always like, okay, that sounds great, But that's where that relationship comes in, because you have somebody that actually is dialed in to making that work for you.
Yep.
I love the fact that you kept saying that, you teach them. You teach them how to do that. You do that kind of, because I think that's so important, because, Ashley out here, she knows I am so uncomfortable with this stuff. And she spends half her time just handing me tissues because I'm crying about it,
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. I don't know how it works. I don't want to know how it works, I really want to know that it's working.
Yep.
And so we were very, very fortunate that, again, you run into somebody and it was from like, by the way, this person's awesome.
Yep.
And so doing your marketing like that, I think, is one, the most effective, and two, it takes a lot of your time of grinding away, trying to just get leads and all that kind of stuff. And because for you, you got to be constantly learning new things with as fast as your industry is moving.
I will say at least 10 to 11 hours of my week is learning. I am part of a group of marketing agency owners where we meet every Friday online, and we are talking about the latest things going on in the industry, especially when it comes to like Google and Facebook updates and different social media platforms that are coming out, and best practices. Like, what did Instagram say this week about, they're changing their size now for what they want? Okay, cool. So we need to make sure we help keep each other accountable, and we're all over the U.S. It's I think there's like 3 of us in Oregon, and there's like 12 of them in California. It's and so it's a great community to be a part of, to learn, come together, bounce ideas off of each other, and we all do things so so different in the sense of our styles. And I think that's the beautiful thing, is that my style is different than my buddy who's in Texas, right?
Yeah.
His style is completely different than mine, and his business actually focuses on white label. So he takes other agency owners and says, hey, my team will fulfill all of your things, so you can just get clients and we'll do all the fulfillment, right? I'm the opposite, where I do all the fulfillment and get my own clients, you know?
Is that why the difference between black label and white label?
Yeah, I mean, no, but it's.
I was gonna
but
say, like-
white label is that's just the term that the industry uses. And then I chose black label because it's top shelf whiskey, and I wanted a company that was top shelf, top of
Yeah.
the line. It had a little luxury-esque feel to it, but also it was something that you could count on. Mm-hmm. So.
Nice, nice. I think what you do fascinates me and scares me just as much.
Yeah.
Because it's so critical to our business as we grow to be to relevance, to be relevant and things like that. But it's moving so fast that it's just painful.
Yeah.
It's just painful for me, because people are like, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do this. I'm like, I don't even know how to do, I can't leave a voicemail, and you want me to be in charge of our digital content, and
Well, now you don't have to leave a voicemail. AI can do that for you.
that's the thing.
Yeah.
I was just talking. They go, well, just use this. I'm like, I don't have apps on my phone, let alone I have I got Facebook because we do business on Facebook, so I have to kind of monitor that to make sure we're doing that kind of stuff. And I get scolded every time I step outside of my little box and go, oh, you know what? That would be kind of cool. I should put that on our page. And then I get a phone call.
You're
Mike,
ruining the algorithm.
Mike, what are you doing? And so. But so I don't really do a whole lot to that, which I'm just kind of a stone tablet and chisel guy.
Yeah.
But I am fascinated by what can be done. It's amazing to me. And so I could just sit and do the whole, at a table watching it like a 9-year-old that's just never seen something before.
It's insane. I was sitting down with a furniture store in Albany, and we were talking about lead generation, and I was like, yeah, actually I can lead generate from Google just based on what people are searching. And I was like, oh, by the way, I can collect up to 45% of your data on your website from people that are on your website without them even filling out a form. That means name, phone number, email address, physical address. If they have multiple emails or multiple phone numbers, I can get all of those.
So if we were to give you our database, because we have emails, because when people order pizzas online,
Yep.
and I think there's probably 5 or 6 people that we've done business with that are rolling their eyes right now, yes, Mike, we told you this for,
Yeah.
But we need to maximize that content, I guess, is the different thing. And I know that you're in networks with Charles and things like that, and so you know what I have to work with right there.
Yep. Yeah.
It's
tough. It's tough.
It's passion.
apologize.
We have a lot of passion in our company.
That's what we call it. Yes.
And what's funny is when it comes to, because we deal with nothing but kids, and so I always call it youthful enthusiasm.
I love it.
I
love it.
And then the
I'm
thing
gonna
is
steal that.
us adults haven't grown out of that in this company. We are still full of that from the top all the way to
Yep.
the bottom. And so,
By the way, that's one of my favorite things about Charles. I love sitting next to him at networks, and then I can lean over and we can both make a joke and laugh about it. It's great. It's great.
yeah, he's again blessed to have the people we have around us.
Yeah.
So your industry, as much as it's changing, I think
Yeah.
it stays the same, but it changes. So what is the biggest challenge that you have in that?
I think the biggest challenge in all the change is that you don't have to do everything. A lot of business owners are like, well, I have to do this, and I have to do this, and I have to do that. And I'm like, whoa, pause. What is the most important thing in your business outside of taking care of your people and all of those things? Well, okay, it's generating leads and our stuff getting seen. Okay, so let's just focus there. Now that we know that, who are the people that you're trying to reach? Where are they? Okay, now that we know where they are, now we're going to specifically target them in the different types of campaigns that we run. So that's where your SEO comes into play locally. That's where your ads come into play. That's where your email marketing, your text marketing, and everything comes into play. And now you have AI, right? Okay, so now AI is even a whole different beast, and people are like, well, I need to, have everything needs to be AI. And it does. I mean, I'll get there. We're getting to a point of where everything should be automatically done for you, because it's freeing up your time and the time of the people in your business to be more involved in the other things that they need to be involved in, right? But it's just take it one step at a time. You don't have to do everything all at once.
You're
you
like
know, it's like I
touching my soul right
yeah,
now.
I literally, a lot of what I do is it's counseling. I'm literally sitting with people being like, oh, dude, I hear you. Okay, let me put you at ease. Like, just because that worked for this person over here doesn't mean that you have to put that in over here. Now, what is where you're at? What can we focus on that can maximize, one, your budget, and two, also like the people that you already have? Because often we focus on new and we forget about everyone else, you know? And so it's like, hey, let's reactivate your database first. And like, let's build this strategy for going forward. So now that way, any new person that you add, they're already put into this database. It's an automatic system. They're taken care of. You know that every third Wednesday of the month, they get a text message that's automatically sent out, an email every, 2 months or however you want to set that up, So I think really it's just, the hardest thing is hearing the same things from business owners over and over again because there's so much information that they're like, I don't know what's true and what isn't true. And so it's like, okay, well, let me just stop you here. Let me tell you like what is beneficial for where you're at right now and this will be where you want to eventually be. And let's start taking the stepping stones to get to that spot.
And it's actually super important too, because I think everybody thinks you go from A to Z. If I just get the right combination, if I just get the right marketing, the right this, I'm just going to go from like A to Z. And I think that's probably one of the things that people miss so much. You got to really have a good plan on how you can build like what you're talking about. So I think that's the approach.
Yep.
And
that's how it is we, I try to tell everyone like, hey, I'm not going to sell you anything that you don't need. Like, it's worthless for me to do that. Because at the end of, a 3-month agreement, you're going to be like, this sucked, you're not going to get anything out of it. And I don't want that. I want you to get something out of it, And so I work my butt off to make sure you get something out of it.
Funny you said 3 months, because I tell everybody in our company it's the same thing. Whatever you do today, you'll see in 3 months.
Yep.
And not before.
Yeah.
And anything you see before, you may get little spikes here
Yeah.
or even drops now and then. But you can't overthink that. You got to say, is this the program we need? And then you just got to give it some time.
Yep.
Which I think is probably the most difficult thing for you, because I think business owners are just so worried because I'm spending this money. What am I getting out of it? Like right now.
Yeah, and that that is something that I've had to deal with. I've had companies where we have generated them 20 leads in a month, and they're a bigger industry. So I have to remind people like, hey, my job is marketing. Like, I can get you in front of the right people, but at the end of the day, it's on you and your sales team to sell them, And so I had a guy who he was just like, well, none of these leads are good. And I was like, no, dude, we have like triple verification on these. Like, I know that these are good, And so I went behind the scenes and I was like, I stopped him from getting the automations of who was responding. And then I started on the back end. I was like, I'm going to start responding to these people that are submitting these forms. So that way I can like really see, is it me? Is it what we're doing? Or like what's happening here? And come to find out for him, it was that his salespeople weren't following up on him. And I was like,
we just had a franchisee meeting yesterday, and a lot of these collaborations, because really this is the whole point of what we're trying to do here, is to connect businesses and people that are just trying to grow, and and like I want to add my community, your community, and vice versa, and that's really a big piece of this. And so, but the thing is you still have to execute on the backside of it. When you're dealing with a community, it's just like it takes work, it takes effort, and you have to execute that plan. And like you said, you can lay it all out there for them, but they can't get anything out of it unless they apply, that. And that's got to be tricky, though.
It definitely
because it all
can
sounds
be.
good. Again, we go back to that whole thing. This whole thing sounds good, but there's a lot of pieces to this.
There is. There's a lot of pieces. There's a lot of hurt that's happened, and so. Yeah, I find a lot of what I do too is reassurance, and like, hey, here's what's actually happening. Here's what's going on in the back end, and I try to over communicate. I'd rather you much be annoyed with how much I'm communicating with you than you feel like I'm not communicating enough. You know, I was like, hey, great, this is what happened. Like I set up all my clients on a Discord server. And so we have like different categories. So we have like, hey, this is our general chat. Throw in any questions here that you have. Then we have like your reports. So all your reports go in here. I shoot a Loom video for every report. So that way I can walk the client through the report. I schedule monthly meetings with them. Most of them have my cell phone number anyway. So if they need anything, they just text me, you know. And
I love this.
like,
You know, I got to stop you for just
Yeah.
a second. Loom. He said, I have no idea what Loom is. This is the language.
yeah.
You're like, I just put it in Loom. I don't know what Loom is. What's Loom?
Loom is a so it's a software that you can essentially screen record.
Okay.
So it like gives you a little circle of you down at the bottom talking to the person that's watching it, and you just screen record and show them a report or show them.
Okay.
People use it to pitch services. I feel like that's not personal enough for me. I'm an in-person person, but yeah, you know, I shoot them those videos so they can always go back and watch them to track their progress. Because a lot of the reports, let's being honest, you probably don't know how to read the report. So if I'm just sending you the report and you're like, cool, numbers and arrows and plus signs, I want to like that's hieroglyphs. I don't know what I'm doing, you know, like, and so being able to walk somebody through the report and be like, okay, this is what this means.
Yeah.
This is what we've done this last month. This is kind of where we're headed, and this is what I'm doing for this next month going into it. I found to be really helpful, just that extra assurance that, okay, something is getting done.
Well, and also I think that, you know, for you, this is a comfort zone for you. Like all these different things that you do is a comfort zone. For me, it's very uncomfortable. So
Yeah.
I not only have to get over that part of it, I also have to understand it too. And so being able to teach that, like you'd said earlier about the teaching, which that really struck a chord with me, because I think that people forget that. It's like you're not selling anything. You're actually, it's a relationship where you're teaching like somebody like me on how you're being effective for me.
Yeah.
You know, and but I've got to understand that. And I think that there's a lot of babysitting, I'm sure.
Yeah,
You know?
I totally. And sometimes, if I'm being honest, it gets frustrating, you know. But
Yeah.
also at the same time, my eventual goal is to be able to set a company up to where it's like, would I love to keep you on as a client for the rest of my life? Heck yeah. But also, if you're trying to grow and you want to bring things in-house, let me help you get set up with that. Let me help you train your person on how we're doing what we're doing and what I'm using. And you know, like, I love doing that.
So you really go in from being somebody that starts that whole thing, and then you hopefully you continue to grow that clientele, and then you could become somewhat of a consultant on top of it. So I guess the second layer would be where you go back in and say, hey, this is the advancements that are happening in this industry, and all that kind of stuff. So once again, coming back to that relationship-based stuff. And I think with you growing that relationship in such an ever-changing industry, you've got to look long-term, you know, and it's a real short-term mindset business right now. And so the fact that you're in it to teach, and the relationship stuff, and going off of leads from your current client base and growing those relationships, I really, that's the right formula. Somebody asked me something the other day that I can't stop thinking about. After 26 years, you know, what has been your biggest, like what shocks you the most, basically, is what they said. And I thought about it, and I was like, you know, because there's a lot of things.
Yeah.
You know, we've had a lot of things happen. We've had, you know, just a variety of things. And I think what shocks me the most is it's no different than day one. When I came into it day one, I was trying to do this, trying to do that, worried about this, worried about that. How can I do this? How can I do that? And then I just went into it with that thing of like, you're just trying to solve all these things going forward. It's no different today than it was that. So 26 years into it, I still wake up with exactly that same mindset. I think it's making sure that you're still taking care of your customers.
Yep. What's the saying is that people see the platform, but they don't see what it took to get there. You know, they don't see the hustle. They don't see the behind closed doors, you and your wife worried about, like, how are we going to make it work this month? You know, like no one sees those things. They only see what's in front of them. And yeah, it's so true. I still wake up every day and I'm like, okay, we got the same things today that we did yesterday. Let's figure it out and let's do it.
Yeah,
you know?
your day starts with the challenge every day.
But I love it. I love strategy type games, and like that's why I love, you know, card games and things like that, because I'm like, it's like chess, and I'm like, okay, what's the move today?
What's been your biggest, you know, people ask me about my 26 years in business, what's my biggest challenge and things. And I think that any business owners or entrepreneurs or anything, they really have a lot of the same struggles.
Yeah.
But is there anything that's caught you off guard?
I think for me, man, for me, I didn't know. This is gonna sound so bad. Okay, so no one judge me. But I didn't know when I started my business that you were supposed to be paying quarterly taxes. Like I had no idea. No one told me anything about business finances outside of, hey, open up a business account and make sure you keep your personal funds separate from your business. And I was like, all right. And then I got to the end of year one and I was like, I owe how much? No.
And
Excuse
people
me,
like,
what?
You're
Like,
doing so well.
yeah. And I'm like, no, I am not. Like, and so I think for me, that was the biggest challenge was, okay, so I can bring in, X amount of revenue a month. But realistically, when I started, I was an LLC. I'm an S corp now, and so like I have a little bit of a tax break. But back then I was getting like double taxed, and it's like, okay, so how much money do I actually have to put away? Oh, so I only get like 5% of that. Great, that's awesome. That's nothing,
Yeah.
And so I think just the things that I wasn't well known, like I didn't know how to do in my business, was the challenging part. The marketing stuff, like I love that. I could do that all day. But it's the other avenues of business that I'm like, okay, I need to find, like, I don't want to learn it. Like there are certain pieces of it that I'm like, okay, I know I need to know how to do X, Y, and Z. But as far as I'm not going to sit there and try to figure out taxes for myself. So who's the professional that I can sit down with, have a conversation, build a relationship with, and be like, I trust you to, do those things. And so I think it's finding the right power partners. And you don't know what you don't know. And you need people around you in order to grow.
Back to the community thing and the networking especially is you have gaps. Everybody has gaps.
Yeah.
And I fill my gaps. Like I've got a great business partner who fills those gaps and stuff. I've got a great director of operations who's not filling that gaps. But it's hard. It's hard to find that person or that company that fills that because there's so many to choose from in so many ways. But it's just your world.
Yeah,
a lot to choose from.
And,
but
I don't ever get offended when somebody's like, hey, I'm still shopping around. I'm like, dude, go for it. Please do.
Yeah.
Like, look at everybody's reviews. Call anyone that have left them reviews if you know them personally. Like, go for it. Like,
I don't want to get into reviews.
Yeah, that's a whole.
So frustrating. I was going to say, do they have the impact that they used to have?
So yes and no. So reviews are still very important to your overall search engine optimization, but they are not as weighty as they once were. They're still very important. And there are ways to mitigate the bad reviews. You just have to have somebody that knows how
See,
to
that's
do
the
that.
thing.
Yeah.
Because, we get some of the reviews like, I never been in there, 1 star. Like, that just killed 5 of my 5 stars.
Yep. Yeah.
Why would you do that? But
Here's your little search engine optimization tip. If you use this, let me know. This is what you do. So when somebody leaves you a 1 star that, either it didn't happen in your location or they're like, oh, I've never been in there, or it's something off the wall, leave them a response, and the response, you need to ask them a question. If they don't respond within a certain, within 2 weeks, you can report that to Google, and Google will actually take it down because they're non-responsive. So that's just
it's better than
Throw in
using a
there.
sniper. Okay. Yes.
Yeah. I've given that advice to a few business owners, and they're like, "Dude, this worked." And I was like, "It's one of those things that I was on the phone with a Google rep, and he was like, "Hey, I'm just gonna let you know,
Yeah.
So
So now is that
do this."
something that, because like I said, there's all kinds of different departments for what you do as well. Is that a service that you provide with what you do?
So as far as me removing your Google reviews, no.
Yeah, because it doesn't sound like with what you've told me that you do and how you do it and all that kind of stuff. I just know that, again, there's different people that you need to add for different things and all
Yeah,
that. And so,
so-
do you work with anybody else outside that kind of you sublet stuff out to?
So if it is, there's a few things that I will. So when I'm working with a business and they're like, hey, we want you to do our social media content. I'm like, I will totally write you a strategy, and I will even have my assistant, who is my 19-year-old daughter, by the way, I will have her
I love that.
post all of your content. I, however, do not want to film it.
Yeah.
That's actually where I started when I started my marketing agency, was filming content and doing it, and I hated it. Hated it. So I'm like, I will not film your content or take photos for your content, but I have a guy that I refer to, and he does all of my video content, all of my photos, even my family photos, and he's absolutely amazing. And so I literally refer everyone to him. I have a graphic designer, same thing. Dude is absolutely amazing. Redid all of my graphics, my logo, everything. Like, he really takes time to get to know the person and to say, okay, well, what does your brand stand for? Like, what are your values? And when I tell you, this guy made what was in my head come alive when I couldn't put words to it. I was like, you're the dude. Like, you're my dude, you know? And so I refer people to him. And then
Isn't it amazing how amazing people are? You just kind of find them and go, where'd you come from?
Yeah, literally. So the guy that does my videos, I literally texted him this morning, and I was like, dude, in case no one told you this, you are the best video guy ever. Like, I love you, and you're amazing, and please don't ever stop doing what you're doing. Like, you know.
Well, I think that, again, there's different avenues to this industry and stuff, because you have, Ashley and I were talking about, you have influencers that want to stick to the influencing side. You have content creators, and you have, the people that are the structuring of this. And I guess that's what's so important about networking too, is as you find these pieces, you're building your own business in a sense, and you just have, you're not employees per se, but they are that extension of your business.
I like to call them my power partners. They are like, if they grow, I grow. And that's the same thing with my clients. I tell all my clients, like, hey, if you grow, I grow. Like, that's how we roll. Like, we're in a partnership now. Let's do this. You know?
I think that's super important.
Yeah. So I reach out. I have a couple people like that. As far as like advertising, like running the ads and doing the search engine optimization, and even the CRM, that customer reputation management like piece, I do all of that. And that includes like sending out automated text messages for Google reviews, and like I do all of those like things in my business. I don't sub those out. I have a software that I use that like everything is inside of that software except for two things. But I found one system that I can control and do everything on, has accurate reporting, and I have tested thousands. Literally, my wife gets so annoyed when she's like, you're trying another new software, and I'm like, listen, I need to know. Like, everyone says it's great, but like until I get into it, like I can't know. And how could I tell my client like, hey, yeah, this is great, and I'm like, I hate this, I'm like, I can't do that. Like, if I'm not going to use it in my own business, I'm not going to like tell somebody else they should use it.
God, for someone like me, it scares me still. All of that stuff scares me. So having a partner and having somebody that can do the things that they need to do is just critical, especially in these times, And I love the fact that you kept using the word teaching, because you got to get through my panic, to do that stuff. And so, but I will say, you talked about Charles. Charles speaks very highly of you.
Oh.
And so, I'd like to find the people that I get to know. And so when I bring somebody in, like I said, I really didn't know you.
Yeah.
And I thought this would be a good start. I hope you understand how much I appreciate you coming in and taking the time to do this. And I think what's nice about this is, as we grow as a company and as this kind of stuff evolves, it's going to be cool to be able to call you and say, all right,
round two, let's
help
go.
me figure this out. Yeah, I would love to have you back. And as we start connecting a lot of these through networking, some partners that we plan on getting, I really am excited about, this kind of stuff.
My mentor, one of my mentors, he told me this probably like 10 years ago. And if you ask anybody that's hung out with me, they're like, we get so annoyed that you keep saying this. But time spent is relationship built. And so it's about time. Let's spend time together to get to know each other, so you know that you can trust me and that we can do the thing together. So I'm a firm believer like on what you're saying, dude. It's the time. Taking the time. That experience is huge.
Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of Oddmo's Community Networks. Stay tuned for next week. Ashley of ALM Media Management steps out from behind the camera. to share her journey and highlight the work that drives her business. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss it.